everyone, it's Kalini Kent here, and I'd love to welcome you to another evening of Time to Talk. And in the studio tonight, I've actually got a lovely lady called Caroline King, and we're going to tell you about this interesting friendship we've had since we've never actually physically met, have we, Caroline?
No. Well, it feels like we've known each other for a long, long time.
I know, and I don't know if anybody else can resonate with this, the fact that lockdown's a bit of a weird scenario, isn't it? I don't know about you, but I've met so many people through networking meetings and Zooms, and you just build up friendships, actually. So, I mean, do you want to share how we met? It was quite funny, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it is because of lockdown that we met. So whilst it's frustrating that you can't physically see someone, I guess it did bring us together. So yeah, we were on a networking group Zoom that you were facilitating one of the elements, and I happened to be in your group, and we got on, and then we sort of connected afterwards, had a conversation, and we've had lots of conversations since. So yeah, hopefully once the lockdown is lifted, we can actually finally meet.
I know. And can I just say, everyone, as is always the case with this, we're having these conversations every evening. We'd love to have guests on. We welcome your comments. And so please, if there's any questions you've got, we'd love you to actually share them in the comments. If you want your name to show, you just have to give permission to StreamYard. But please do say hello, and so that we know that we're not on our own. I know can see some eyes and people are watching. And ask any questions, because tonight we thought we'd have a fascinating discussion about confidence, which is so important to us all, isn't it?
Yeah.
And in particularly whether it be family life or work life or business, you know, it's in every aspect of our life. Confidence is the thing that underpins us all and makes us feel good and helps us in progress and be successful. So, but anyway, Caroline, first of all, do you want to tell everybody what you do? Because you've actually, and in fact, it's quite topical, isn't it? Because we're going to talk about it in relation to confidence, because you've changed this year, haven't you? You've had quite an about turn. Do you want to tell us what you do?
Yeah, okay, no problem. So just over a year ago, I was working in the corporate world and decided to give that up for a whole range of reasons and retrain in a new sector. So I moved from corporate settled job one that I'd done for a long time to a completely new sector, exams, learning sort of loads of new things, not knowing whether I was going to enjoy it or be good at it, and then retrained and set up a business. And now I'm going about turn, staying in business, but doing the things that I used to love to do. So it's been quite an interesting 360 sort of 12, 14 months for me.
Yeah, and I think that probably, I don't know, I think a lot of people that will resonate with, because I think there are a lot of people who are going through the same thing where they're having to sit, you know, they've pivoted, I've said it, I didn't mean to say that word tonight, but people have had to pivot, they've had to change and develop or just adjust what it is they're doing. Yeah. And in fact, it's something that we do talk about in some of the groups I'm in, particularly like Inspirational Women of the World. It's you know, it's important that we actually sometimes have different income streams, because it's actually the thing that's helped some of us to be able to have different options for income. So, so first of all, I thought what would be useful is to talk about what confidence is, and then maybe we can relate it to our everyday life, really. Because, I mean, some of you will know I do confidence, resilience, and mindset coaching. But confidence, to me, people often say, oh, you know, I'm not confident in this or I'm confident in that, and that is the whole point. There are different aspects to confidence, and we can be confident in one aspect of our life, but not in another. So, and confidence really has different aspects. So first of all, there's like, first of all, this self-esteem, which is how you actually see yourself, your view of yourself. And then you have your self-belief, which is how your belief in your own abilities, really. And it's actually something that's really quite important, because sometimes if you've got sort of like that negative entity undermining you, sometimes you lose belief in your abilities to be capable of doing something. Then you've got self-worth, which is how you value yourself. And this isn't just about a monetary value, but it's about your value and your place in the world and in your particular career or life choice. It's how you value yourself, even in your family and your working life. So it's quite a big topic, really, self-worth. And then there's self-image, and that's how you see yourself. So, and again, that's not your physical shape as such, though some people, obviously, that's important to them as well. It's how your image of yourself, you know, how do others perceive you and how do you perceive yourself? So there is quite, you know, those are 4 phrases, and I hope, you know, if anybody wants to talk to me afterwards about that, happy to explain more. But is that something that resonates with you as well, Caroline, and something that's cropped up for you?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the journey of change that I briefly explained before sort of cements that. I mean, when I was in my corporate role and I was having difficulties in my personal life, so at home I was sort of going through lots of turmoil, but in work, my dress was on, my heels were on, my lipstick were on, and I was very confident and competent at my job. And no one would have thought in a million years that I had a trouble in the world. But like you say, there's all these different components. And then I've gone through change, significant change, that I decided to make the change for sort of personal reasons and that whole what's your why. But in terms of the last 12 to 18 months, the amounts of ups and downs that I've had compared to how I've always been has been really marked. I've always been quite sort of level, felt sort of self-assured, knew what I was doing, had a lot of faith in my own ability. And I've had times when I've thought, brilliant, I've done an exam that I never thought I'd be able to do in super quick time. That's brilliant. And then, oh, hang on, I've got to do another one. I've got the resilience and strength to do it. And then I've got kids, and how can I balance all the plates and that sort of thing. So I've really sort of been quite in tune with moods, feeling up and down and feeling under pressure. And I guess putting myself to the bottom of the pile, which often we do, and recognizing that, but thinking, right, I've got to drag myself out of it so I can totally relate to all those different elements of confidence. Definitely.
Yeah. Can I just share, by the way, somebody, I don't know who this lovely person is, but said, I like the beautiful ladies bit though. Good evening, beautiful ladies. Thank you. And unfortunately, because you've not given StreamYard permission to say who you are yet, it's just literally, you just have to click on something. But just let us know in the comments who you are, because I'd love to say a personal hello back. But thank you. Yeah. Good evening, and lovely for you to listen.
Nothing like an ego boost at 8 o'clock.
And before anybody says anything, yes, I've got a bit of a glittery top on, and I've also got a glass of bubbly in my hand, which is not normal. It's normally a mug of coffee. And it's because I've just been doing something in another group. It was like a sparkly heart evening. Oh, it's Michelle. Hello, Michelle. Sorry, don't know why it isn't using my name. It usually does. It's Michelle Phelps. Hello, beautiful.
Hello.
And you are a beautiful lady as well, in fact, Michelle. Thank you so much, Michelle, for listening in. It's so good to see you. Do say hello, everybody else. So, do you know what? I'd love to break down what you've just described, because, I think what I've done, I do a lot of talks in different situations, groups. And one of the things that is often the thing that causes the lack of confidence for a lot of people is change.
Yeah.
And I think that, change management, I've talked about things like the Kubler-Ross change curve. I won't go into that tonight, but
yeah,
change is something that is really the biggest thing that undermines our confidence, because what it is it's basically, it's the loss of our norms, isn't it? It's the loss of what we're used to, and it's usually we like to stay in our comfort zones and what we're safe with. And I think it's any change that takes you out of your comfort zone is something that's really quite significant.
Yeah.
And in fact, if you think about what COVID has done for us all, it's completely changed our life. We're living differently. Our jobs are different. Our education system is different. And what we're actually needing to do and how we're supporting our children is different. Many of us haven't been trained to sort of educate our children at home. We're not teachers. So, that juggling. So we've got all of that going on for us, and that leads to fears, and it leads to that. And so the change in itself is something which really undermines the confidence, because I think that's been one of the things for a lot of people, because they're having to, it's all that uncertainty as well. Yeah. So uncertainty leads to lack of confidence, doesn't it? That uncertainty, the people who have been put on furlough, will their job exist at the end of it all? And so I think if we break it down into the things, and maybe if we've got sort of some ideas and strategies at the end. Always I like to have these conversations, but we talk about what the challenges are, but it's also nice to have some strategies and good tips. So do listen to the end, because we've got some strategies and ideas to share with you that you can actually take on board and maybe try, just to help you. And as I said, these are conversations that are going to go on every day. So this can crop up again. We can talk about it next week even, or on another night, and follow on from this. So yeah, well, I mean, I think it's that change for you, hasn't it? You've obviously gone through a lot of change, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, when I set up my business in January, in a new sector, doing something that I was trained on paper to do but hadn't done in practice, that was quite scary but exciting. But I mean, like no one predicted that 11 weeks later we'd be in lockdown in the most unusual situation any of us have found ourselves in. So you're already feeling uncertain. Then that happens, and you do that whole. It was like the change curve. What on earth's going to happen next? And I think with COVID, because there's no sort of finite element to it. We don't really know when we have hopes, or by summer we can do this, by Christmas we can do that, but because we don't know, you sort of think, how long can I keep on going? So that was tough. Then throw in the homeschooling, assuming I'd be a great teacher, and actually being terrible and feeling really bad because I was trying but wasn't doing I was doing my best, but I knew it wasn't great. That I found that really, really tough. And then when the business wasn't going quite how I anticipated, and a lot of that was out of my control. So, there was an element where I thought, don't be too hard on yourself, because some of this you can't do anything about it, and really missing some of the things that I used to do in the past, and thinking actually quite quickly I'm already reassessing the decisions I've made and what are people going to think, and all that sort of that inner chatter and concerns, probably overly concerned about what some people would think. That's caused quite a lot of uncertainty and fear of making big decisions. Now I have made decisions and moved forward, but it's still an uncomfortable process to go through.
Yeah, and I think also another thing that's factoring this is that because so often we don't want to share or admit that we're struggling. We are very much, a society nowadays where everybody wants to, you've got your social media image that you feel that you need to actually carry on and perpetuate, which is one of, I am confident, I am this, I'm coping, I'm managing, when actually you may not be. And there could be days, and life is no straight flat platform. You do go up, you do go down, and there will be peaks and troughs. And so it's important for us to recognize that is normal. It really is normal. So, there's absolutely no reason for you to actually feel that you're failing or whatever. But I think we do want to try and keep this idea that we're coping up, don't we? And we sort of perpetuate that. So what I'd love to do is just translate, I mentioned before the 4 elements. There's self-esteem, self-belief, self-esteem, self-worth, and self-image. And I'd like to sort of maybe break it down and translate that. So I think sometimes the change of the uncertainty leads to that lack of confidence, which is lack of confidence in our ability to do things, which then leads to poor self-esteem. Then you've got your pressures of expectations, like we feel we've got to be the perfect parent, or we've got to be the successful business person, or we want our business, if we're an entrepreneur and working on our own, we need to be doing it well and and have the solutions. You don't want to admit to people I'm struggling. And so that then leads to more hats and wearing, and so that leads to self-doubt, which then your self-belief, you're feeling like, am I good enough or whatever. And then I think there's the other thing of the arguments and the parenting challenges we've all had, and the juggling, feeling that you're not coping, that then leads to your poor self-esteem and self-worth. So all of these things in the melting pot leads to you feeling your chimp on your shoulder, your negative inner chatter, your inner chimp going, it's got loads to feed on. And so what you're doing is that negative inner chatter and your limiting beliefs that say, see, you're not good enough, you're not good enough. Why are you even thinking about that? And all those negative things you say to yourself, it's giving your negative chimp, on your shoulder, opportunity to go wild. And so which is why I'd say to you that it's really important to build your resilience. It's the things, your chimp will sometimes be saying things that you wouldn't say to other people. You wouldn't even say to your worst enemy. But it's but at the end of the day, it's undermining your confidence. And that's why I wanted to talk about this tonight, because I think confidence is just so important. And you hear things about, managing your stress. And I've talked about stress a bit and anxiety. But, actually, it's all of those things we've just described tonight and what you've gone through are leading to stress, aren't they? But they're undermining your confidence. So they all work together. Stress, anxiety, resilience, they all work together. And it's also a mindset thing. How do you manage this situation so that you don't let all those things undermine your confidence so much? So I'm sure that resonates with you, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think in the last sort of 2 or 3 months, when my eldest son started high school, and I always had this vision a few years ago that by the time he started high school, I would be running my own business based at home in every night when he came in from school and that sort of thing. So when I was having problems with my business and thinking, how am I going to get going? How am I going to earn money and get clients in such a difficult environment? And I was thinking, well, I'm just going to have to go and apply for jobs, which is pretty tough at the moment within the environment. I was thinking, but I'm letting him down, and I'm unraveling the whole reason I gave up my job. So I probably felt like I was backed into a bit of a corner, and it was not easy to unpick and unravel. But then I guess that I mustered up the self-confidence to think, well, I can do something about this. I can still work at home, I can still run a business, but actually I'm going to do that in a slightly different way, in doing something more familiar to me, which I'm in the process of transitioning into at the moment, and straight away it feels much better, because I think there was too much, everything was in a state of flux, and some of that I could control, so I've ebbed away a lot of that uncertainty now. So when I'm working with clients, I'm doing different things for clients, but the work is completely familiar. I'm on home territory, and that is, in terms of the confidence boost and people enjoying what I'm doing for them and the impact I'm having on them and their business, that immediately makes me think, right, okay, I've learned a lot of lessons, so it's worth going through the experience, and it's taught me a lot about myself and how my self-esteem and self-worth and all those other elements work, and what really sort of upsets me and derails me. So it's been quite an interesting I would say an epiphany in the last sort of 4 to 6 weeks.
And you know what, I think it is so important, that, isn't it, sometimes we don't give ourselves pats on the back enough. No. Isn't it, it's like we talk about kindness, don't we?
Yeah.
And if we're kind to if you say something kind or nice to somebody, it really makes them feel good, doesn't it? Yeah. And it brings a smile to their face. It raises their, the oxytocin and serotonin levels, because it's that feel good factor of giving a compliment, but also receiving it. If we only were kinder to ourselves, and we were able to quell that inner chatter and that chimp on our shoulder being negative, it would really help us. And it then builds on that confidence. So what I wanted to do was just, now we've talked about confidence and stuff, I wanted to just sort of talk about maybe some ideas that we could implement and strategies to actually help ourselves, because really it's about conquering those gremlins and the negativity. You're never going to change necessarily your circumstances straight away, but a lot of it is about your mindset, and it's about how you see things and how you approach it. So my first one was about keeping things positive, with a positive mindset. And I really think it's important. It's like one of the classic ones at the moment people talk about is about modeling confidence, because your children are watching on and seeing how you're responding to COVID, for example. And if they can see you handling it in a positive and a manner, then it will actually model to them, well, this is the way we need to, there's nothing to worry about. Mummy and daddy are so coping with it. And it's the same sort of thing. If we can actually look at it glass half full rather than glass half empty, and look at things as, okay, it's a bit about locus of control. We can only control so much. There's things that are in our control and things that aren't in our control. Yeah. We can't control what's going on with COVID. So all we can do is actually control our responses to it. And it's my favorite phrase: you can't control what's happening to you or what people do to you or what they say to you. All you can control is how you choose to respond. So I would say the first one for me is about keeping things positive. And it's about, and if you need to, reframing a situation, looking at it and seeing, well, what's actually going on here? Let me think about this in a positive way. Well, actually, that's an opportunity to learn from it, an opportunity to grow, for example. You could have easily imploded with your situation at work, couldn't you? But instead, you picked your socks up and you sort of thought, okay, I'll transition this and I'll change. Yeah. And I'll embrace the change, because that's what the Kubler-Ross change curve is about. People, they first of all are in denial and they reject it, etc. But then eventually they see, well, actually, there's a positive out of this. So that's one strategy. It's about positivity and reframing things. We were going to go over to you. What was your suggestion?
My probably favourite one is relationships and connections, and probably as someone that has always worked in communications, obviously that is a natural one for me. And it's interesting because in the last sort of 9 months or so, pre-lockdown and since, obviously I've met you, I've met probably like 10 people where I've formed a really good sort of relationship and bond with. You're one of them, and they're the people that I speak to quite regularly, stay in touch with, and some of them are fairly new business owners. There's a whole array of people, so that these brand new people in my life who we don't actually know that much about our personal situation, but we sort of bond. And I do find it very beneficial to talk. I am a problem solver through talking. Counselling and those talking type of therapies, I completely believe in that type of thing. So I've surrounded myself with the right people. And it's interesting what you say about positivity, because when COVID first kicked in and everyone was like, oh no, what am I going to do? I was probably initially more gravitating towards people in the same situation, and we were sympathizing with each other and going over it, but without anyone meaning to. It was just so negative and draining. Yeah. And for like 2 weeks, it was like this pity party. And it seemed great when you start the call and you get off and you think, I feel even more miserable now than when I entered this call. So we almost had this honest conversation saying, much as we actually really like speaking to each other, this is probably quite unhealthy. Let's take a step back. But relationships for me are always the number one. And interestingly, now I'm sort of changing again. It's some of those longer standing relationships with people who I've worked for or worked with. They're just coming to me, they're creating opportunities, and they're being positive and being really kind and supportive. So I've always invested a lot in relationships with no real expectation, but it does pay off longer term. Someone will always lend their ear or give you a hand, whether it's just giving you some advice or giving you an opportunity. So relationships and keeping in touch and not isolating yourself. I love people. I am an extrovert, so I struggle working at home. But if you're more of an introvert and get a bit drained by people, I think there's a risk that you might just lock yourself in your house and come out 3 months later, and then you've only got you and your chimp for company, which can be quite dangerous, because my chimp is very naughty and talks to me for a few hours in the middle of every night. So that needs putting under control. It's terrible.
You're going to have to find something to keep it, feed him lots more bananas.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll loan him for someone else.
And you know what? It's so nice. And the great thing is also humor is so important, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because if you take things too seriously, and I know it's easier said than done, because sometimes if things are really bad, but sometimes that's why staying isolated is actually bad for you, because what happens is that you then become too introspective and you start thinking too much about what's going on and going over and over and over in your head. So actually, by having another person to reflect off, and for them to actually give you a different perspective on things is good. And I would just like to actually quote something like, people say that you are the sum total of the 5 people that you mix with most. And I think that is so important. And so, it is about, I talk about radiators and drains. Yeah. People who radiate positivity and who radiate the positive feelings and the way I want to be. And then those who are the drains, who would just suck the life out of you. Yeah. So, but I that's why I love this platform, to be able to share positivity, share ideas, share knowledge with people, and hopefully it will help people. And please do give us some comments if there's anything you want to ask us. So what we've got so far is keeping things positive, reframing techniques, and looking at your locus of control and what you're in control of. The second one is having conversations, listening, and then basically not keeping, not becoming isolated. And the third one I wanted to really hone in on was having a problem-solving approach. And again, this is about your mindset, and it's about, instead of looking at things as insurmountable problems and the fact that we just have not got a way out, there is always a way out. And I always try and see situations that could present themselves to me as an opportunity for, okay, how can we, there's always more than one way of skinning a cat. Yeah. And I feel that it's about finding ways to focus on what you can manage and what you can bring out of it and what can grow out of something. And I think people have noticed, I think COVID has in some respects been good for people, because what we've been able to see is the resourcefulness and what they're capable of doing. It's really been a good testing ground. And people have, I've heard people say they've become really good at technology. They've gone live. They've never done that before. Their confidence levels have gone up in certain areas where they thought they were no good at something because they've had to force themselves to learn. And this is about taking you out of your comfort zone and into your stretch. And that's in stretch zone when you grow. And this is why it's so important for us to think about it like that. So I think that was my third. It's about a problem solving approach and thinking about how can we challenge, how can we handle this? Don't let it overcome you. It's just about how you can actually find ways to actually, solve the situation. And you've clearly done that with you changing and you've tried a couple of things, haven't you? And it didn't work. Yeah. And then, we're not going to go into too much detail about your job, but I mean, basically, you tried things, it didn't work. And then you found now something which has all of a sudden blossomed.
Yeah, absolutely. And one for me that isn't just confidence, is just literally getting fresh air. So my sort of epiphany moments are always when I'm sort of wandering around, even if it's going past houses. We've got footpaths and fields, but just go out for a walk for half an hour when I feel particularly rubbish. It just clears me head. And this bright idea always pops into my head. But it's easy to think, well, I've not got time to do that and go for a walk or just get out. But the fresh air, if I don't get fresh air, I get really grumpy and then quite miserable. And I'm a positive person, so I know by Wednesday, Thursday, if I've not been out, I start feeling grouchy. So it's always staying in tune with how you feel and recognizing those triggers and little tweaks in behavior, isn't it?
So I would just want to finish, because we're all, gosh, it's amazing how time flies. Every evening I plan to be on maximum 20 minutes and it's like 26 already. Right. So to round up everybody. So what I also wanted to just hone in on is, I think, let's choose this opportunity to grow. Let's choose it as an opportunity to stretch ourselves. It's taken us out of our comfort zones, and let's find ways to build our confidence. And remember, confidence, just to summarize tonight, so confidence has different aspects to it. You've got your self-esteem, self-belief, self-worth, and self-image. All of those four together make up your confidence. But remember, confidence is not a finite thing. It can go up and it can down, and you can be strong in one area and less strong in another. And it's about finding those things. Look at your strengths. And my last tip for tonight, so is about looking at your strengths and what your transferable skills are. We've all talented people in our own way, and it's about finding your transferable skills that you can actually sort of like attach to another situation. There are always solutions. I don't see problems, I see opportunities and solutions. So the things to say to you is model positivity and confidence, so that you can actually build a positive atmosphere for others. Have the conversations, listen, don't become isolated, share your ideas with others and they will help you. That was second one. A problem-solving approach is my third. And the fourth one was actually, well, you've obviously said about the well-being and the self-care. Well, that's the fourth one, actually. It's about the well-being, the self-care, making sure you keep connecting with nature, connecting with the things that boost your serotonin and oxytocin levels and all the things that make you feel good, whether it's meditation, whether it's affirmations, whatever it is that floats your boat, keep doing that. And the fifth one for me is look at all the things that you are amazing at. Don't look at glass half full. Don't focus on the negative, focus on what you are good at. And everybody's got skills. So on that note, and thank you. I don't know who this is somebody has just commented this. Love this evening. A great comment. Thanks, ladies. MP Michelle Phelps. Michelle, lovely, and thank you. And I had a lovely conversation with this lovely lady, and it's on my YouTube channel, which anybody can catch that later. So I would just like to say, I leave you with, every evening I have to pull a coaching card. And so I'm going to shuffle my coaching cards.
Be kind to me,
Caroline is going to tell me when to stop, and I'm going to stop at a card. You need to tell me stop.
Right, stop.
Right. This is quite relevant. What are you
obviously?
I'm glad. Well, they're all very good, because what are you assuming about yourself that is holding you back? So that is so good, because what it is I put this in the comments afterwards and people can then answer it. So what is it that you are assuming about yourself that is holding you back? So if we can tackle that, guys, this is all about our confidence. If we can look at what do you think is holding you back, let's find a solution for it. Let's look at it as an opportunity to grow, to stretch yourself and to become a better version of yourself. And everybody's got that. So I shall put that in the comments after. And thank you so much, Caroline. Thank you for being a lovely guest.
Thank you, Kalini. Thank you, Michelle, as well, for being such a cutie.
It's been lovely having you on, and it's been lovely talking to everybody. So please, remember, if you want to come on, a big S, let me know. And I would say good night to you before it gets to 30 minutes, because I want to keep it under 30. Thank you, everybody. All my love. Mwah. Have a good evening.
Good night.